What's going on, Night Nation? Welcome to another episode of UCF Uncut. Tonight, we are going to go over the UCF 2025 football schedule. We're going to go over the schedule. We're going to make predictions and, give an overall record of where this team finishes. So super excited to go over the schedule. We're right around the corner from the season starting. So very excited about that. So tonight, the UCF brew of the night is, we have here a Founders Mortal Bloom. It's a hazy IPA. This one here is 6.2%, and it is based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Never had it before, but we're gonna give it a chance here and see. I got this. I picked this one up. I'm putting in a nice mug here. I got this at Publix. I really got to make a trip over to Total Wine. But with the limited selection Publix had, we went ahead and tried this Founders Mortal Bloom Hazy IPA. So, as always, we're going to go ahead and give it a taste and give it a rating. Let's see how we're looking here. Not bad. Not bad. I'm not a huge IPA guy in general, so for me, I'm going to give this here a 7.4 out of 10. I probably wouldn't get it again, but that's just my overall rating on this beer. We'll keep it in the corner just in case you like IPAs, you might like it. It might be for you. Citrusy and tropical notes, so just an all right one for me. All right, so we're going to move on from the UCF brew of the night, and let's talk about UCF's football schedule. I am pumped. We are right around the corner from the season opener against Jack State. Couldn't be more excited. Let's kind of go over where UCF football is at and, what we think the schedule is going to look like and how UCF is going to, perform. There's a lot of question marks around this 2025 UCF football team. Everybody knows that. But let's see what we can do here. From last week's pod, reading between the lines, basically cryptic messages from head coach Scott Frost, position coaches like Sean Beckton, some of the things that we're hearing from camp, kind of helping us have an idea of what to expect when UCF takes the field this year for 2025. So, let's take a look at UCF's schedule. But first, let's look at UCF's strength of schedule ranking. This is pretty interesting. UCF they have the 57th hardest strength of schedule among FBS teams. So in the Big 12, UCF actually has the 5th hardest schedule this year. So pretty rough schedule. But I actually like it a little bit more, and I'll kind of explain why as we go through. But yeah, pretty tough schedule compared to the others in the Big 12 and 57th hardest in the nation. Pretty good record, strength of schedule. And so, a more detailed breakdown, out of the Big 12, there's only 5 teams, out of the 5 teams with the toughest schedules in the Big 12, in this order, it's Oklahoma State has the hardest schedule, then TCU, Baylor, West Virginia, and UCF. So we're right there in the Big 12 with one of the tougher schedules. Now, projected wins and losses. This is something that I think we're really starting to, I don't know how to say it. I think recency bias is real. And obviously, I don't doubt, it's tough. Look what happened last year with Gus Malzahn. We were coming into the offseason like offseason champs. Look what we did in the portal. We were looking good. We thought KJ Jefferson was going to, really be, a potential Heisman candidate with the 3-headed monster. Remember Penny Boone? last year? What happened to Penny Boone? Why did we not use Penny Boone? Like, what happened? RJ Harvey, obviously, and Miles Montgomery. But yeah, that was a head scratcher last year. So I think UCF fans, the media, a lot of them got kind of burned or burnt out by the hype, believing the hype, the offseason hype. So we came into last year with a lot of expectations, and UCF underdelivered by a long shot. I remember seeing some people on Twitter who bought like UCF Big 12 championship, bets online, and yeah, they took a flyer, because UCF fan, but didn't work out for you. And I get it. And, now here we are a year later with Scott Frost and the 2025 team. And I'm looking at the schedule, and what I'm seeing is a couple things. First, nationally, it's all basically about what have you done for me lately. That's kind of what it seems to be when it comes to this UCF roster. The media is looking at this UCF roster and they're like, okay, look what they did last year, and a new head coach, and they're bringing in 70 transfer players in the portal, 70 new players on the roster between transfer portal and freshmen and incoming freshmen. That is a huge turnover. So without knowing, Scott Frost, his strengths when he was at UCF, particularly in 2017, how he can use, the state of Florida with the speed in his offense and really put out a good product each week on the field. So Vegas is saying 5.5 wins over and under on UCF for 2025. Basically, do we think we're a game better than we were last year when we were 4-8 under Gus Malzahn? Are we a game better? Yes or no? They're really not thinking we're going to do so well, and all the polls have us basically dead last in the Big 12. And I think that they're very mistaken. They're mistaken. Our other UCF podcast fans, media members, anybody covering UCF, I haven't heard any take like the take you're going to hear tonight from me. Not because I'm about clicks or want any, exposure. I'm telling you, like my channel, UCF Uncut. This is the uncut truth and my truth, right? Like what I believe as just an average fan. And I'm going to give you that record breakdown. But let's take a look here. So projected wins and losses. Most have us at 5-7 or 6-6. That's the common theme that we're seeing, especially with Vegas being at 5.5 over and under season wins. So expectations. I think we can blow past 5.5 wins this year. And I'll explain why. But, let's take a look at some of the breaks that we have in our schedule. Because, when you take a look at UCF's schedule for 2025, I actually, when it first came out, I was very, very happy with it because I like the way that it sets up the transition from the dumpster fire of Gus Malzahn to the knight in shining armor, which is Scott Frost. He is here to save. He is here to save the day. And so let's look at the break that UCF got. We don't have to play Arizona State. So that's nice. I actually think Arizona State is going to have some regression this year without Cam Scatbo, the shrimper. I think he's like a shrimper from Louisiana. He kind of looks like one. It's just an inside joke. Yeah, so without playing Arizona State, that's nice. We don't have to play Colorado and Deion Sanders. That's nice. No Iowa State, TCU, or Arizona. Arizona, probably not going to be very good this year. TCU is always tough. Iowa State, definitely we do not want to, play them unless we have to in the Big 12 championship. So it's nice we don't have to play those teams so far, looking at our schedule. So, looking at the cup kind of half full here, not too bad, based on who we have to play for 2025 in the Big 12. All right. So leading up to conference play, right? I'm looking at the schedule and I like it. I like it for a few reasons. And I think overall, just general philosophy when it comes to scheduling, if I was Terry Mohajir, what I would do is I would fill up this schedule with cupcakes, just like the SEC does, because it doesn't do you any good to put someone on the schedule week 1, week 2, week 3, and have it be a toss-up where you have no idea how the game's going to go. Most likely you're playing, a pretty big school if you do that, where I've seen a lot of schools do that, not the SEC, but other schools. And they'll schedule someone like an Oregon week 1 or an LSU week 1. And it doesn't work out for them usually. And I don't think that's the strategy you want to take, because when you look at how the college football playoff works, take the easy layup wins and get the hype. It's all hype. I mean, these preseason polls, it's all hype. And you're a brand, and you're creating a brand. And so when you can start the season, for example, with UCF's schedule, 3-0, non-conference teams, and they're not cupcakes that UCF has this year, but the idea is the Big 12 is hard enough. We're gonna have a hard time getting through the Big 12 and racking up wins and being bowl eligible every year. So if you can control who you play in the first few games, and you want to schedule some, lower level D1 programs from non-Power 4 schools, I think that's the play. I think that's smart. And I think that gives you a little bit of time to have the team gel, get some momentum. And also it looks good being 2-0, 3-0 heading into conference play. So like I said, it's like having a brand. You need to do what's best for the brand. And I think, having an early schedule like we have this year is good. Who knew? Who knew Rich Rodriguez was going to leave Jack State? Who knew Jack State was going to win their conference championship last year? So, scheduling Jack State week 1, it could have been a lot tougher than I think it's going to be with the Jack State team that they're putting on the field. I have a podcast previewing Jack State, earlier a couple weeks ago. You could find it on UCF Uncut channel on YouTube if you want to check that out. But basically, the review of that game, Jack State, we're going to get into it right now. But one thing I wanted to note that I think a lot of people don't know, and this stat has a lot of teeth. You should really, really, really take this stat and think about it. UCF at home in the bounce house over the last 8 years is 42-9. They've won 42 games and only lost 9 games in the last 8 years at home. Most of those losses came last year. So when you come to the bounce house, it's going to be sold out. It's going to be live. It's going to be rowdy. We have a little bit of a slant and a tilt for a home field advantage. People could say what they want about the bounce house. We went to the Swamp. I was at the UF game. And yeah, I mean, it gets loud. It was loud there, no doubt. The Swamp's crazy. But the bounce house holds its own. I mean, the bounce house is very lively of an atmosphere. A lot more lively than a lot of P4 schools, and we're just getting started. So interesting stat. So yep, UCF 42-9 at home. That's a tough place to walk into. And so let's look at Jack State. Home opener, August 28th. Can't come soon enough. We have Jack State on that schedule here. Quickly, Jack State is not the team they were last year, and they're bringing in a whole bunch of transfers, and they're starting people with basically with very little experience. And I think they're going to have a very, very, very long day. I think that this is UCF's coming out party. I think that Scott Frost, Alex Grinch, these players on this UCF team have a chip on their shoulder like you would never imagine. You would never believe it. And I think this is great. Buy low on UCF right now because it's exactly where we want to be. It's exactly where UCF wants to be. Put us dead last in all the polls. See how that works out for you. What has happened historically when UCF is very, very, low hyped by the media? We play best when we're the underdog, the chip on the shoulder. And I think Gus Malzahn and his social media team and the way they really promoted the UCF brand, they had us looking like it's conference championship, national championship, college playoff, or bust. And it's the opposite now. But the UCF players and coaches, if you don't think that they are motivated to prove everyone wrong, that they are not going to be dead last in the Big 12, that their defense is not dead last in the Big 12, that their offense has no shot at putting up points against some of these quality opponents on our schedule. I think UCF is going to shock the world this season, and that's why my schedule prediction is going to be much different than anyone else's, and I'll die on the hill. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. But if I'm right, just remember, I said it first. I said it on August 17th on Sunday that this is the record. This is how it's going to go. We'll see. I'm like Yoda from Star Wars, and I think I can see here what's going to happen with this team. And I'm a huge believer. So let's see. So okay, Jacksonville State, August 28th. We're going to win that game at home. We better win that game at home if I'm even remotely close with my prediction. They just don't have the skill players to match up in the trenches. We're going to control the line of scrimmage. Our defense is going to feast. We're going to have many turnovers. It's going to be an absolute blowout. It's not going to be close. Vegas thinks it's a 16.5-point spread. That's pretty lofty. I mean, that's 2 scores and a field goal. I think UCF's going to be up more than that at the half. And it's going to be, and I don't think we should bench our starters. They need to play a full 4 quarters. We need to run it up. I'm tired of the disrespect. I know UCF is tired of it. I know the players are tired of it because they see it. So I'm pumped. So yeah, we got a dub versus Jack State on August 28th. We're 1-0. Next, September 6th, North Carolina A&T at home. Yeah, that's a dub. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that game. That's the easiest game on the schedule. That's definitely a win. So we're 2-0. We have a bye week, September 13th, which is nice. And remember the brand, right? Okay, we're in week 3. UCF is still 2-0. All the other teams now have played 3 games. And, we got a little early bye, which I like. Good momentum, good hype. We'll be 2-0 going into the bye September 13th. Love it. Then the big game. This one's big. This one's big for the brand and the momentum of this team and the trajectory of this team. And we play UNC at home, okay? This game, I believe, was a makeup game from a hurricane that came to UCF. We had like a tropical storm or something a while ago, like years ago. I remember players from UNC on Twitter, X, and players from UCF were kind of going back and forth at the time. A lot of hype around it. The game never happened. Here we are, fast forward to 2025, and now UNC has to come to the bounce house. And Bill Belichick, right? He's coming, the GOAT of the NFL. Some would say, without Tom Brady, he wasn't really that good of a head coach. I would say that's probably not true. I think it's a little bit of both. I think they both fed off of each other and had a lot of success in New England. And all props to him. He arguably is the GOAT head coach in the NFL. But it's interesting because here he goes. Now he makes the transition to now he's the head coach at North Carolina. And coaching 18 and 21-year-olds is a lot different than coaching pro ball players. And I think the transition is going to take time. I don't know how well he is going to be able to adapt and really implement his coaching style with new coaches, with teenagers, kids in college, how they're going to receive some of his coaching style, because he's like old school. He's like George O'Leary kind of coach. I don't know how that's going to work. We're going to find out, but I don't think it's going to work out that well, and I don't think it's going to happen right away. I think, if anything, he's going to find success, but it's going to take time. They're going to need to build that team up with recruiting. They're going to need to build up that roster. I don't think UNC's there. I think this is a good measurement game because we're in very similar place with Bill Belichick, basically, and UNC and UCF with Scott Frost. But the difference is I think we have better skill players. I think we have a better defense, and we're at home in the bounce house where we are 42-9 in the last 8 years, and I think we're going to get that back. And I think we're going to be heading into this game versus UNC 2-0, and I bet that this is going to be a big noon kickoff type game. I hope we get College Game Day. Depends how UNC's doing, but maybe big noon. We'll see. Either way, really cool. I think this is going to be a good game. And this might even get UCF off of ESPN3 or the Ocho. Finally, we're going to get some good televised games because I think the first two are going to be on ESPN Plus. So hope you got your subscriptions ready on that. So yeah, we're 3-0. We're 3-0. I think we're going to beat UNC. We'll see. So we're 3-0, and now we're heading into late September. And we got Kansas State on the road. I said that the schedule was somewhat nice and forgiving. This game is not forgiving. We are going on the road to play Kansas State in September. And the weather in Kansas in September, I'm assuming it's going to be a little chilly. And these Florida boys, I don't know how we're going to play in that cold. We'll see. But they have a veteran quarterback with Avery Johnson. They have a lot of returning starters. They have a good squad on paper, and they should be one of the contenders in the Big 12 title game. Here's the thing about Scott Frost. Scott Frost can pull off an upset win on the road. He's good for one or two a year, usually, right? Or the media might think that. It's possible. Maybe. I think it's possible. We played K-State years ago on the road and kept it close, and then at the end, it was not close. Maybe we were close for the first half. But with this team, who knows? Who knows what can happen? So I do think we lose that game, unfortunately. I have that as our first loss at Kansas State. So now we are 3-1, and we're 0-1 in the conference heading into October. But there's good news on the horizon. October 4th, we have Kansas coming to town. And Kansas has Jaden Daniels, another veteran quarterback, as their quarterback. The thing is this Kansas team is looking ripe for a defeat. I think that their defense is suspect, and I need to see it to believe it, and they're very inconsistent with that offense. So Kansas is more of a basketball school. They have been better as of late in football, but we want that. We're going to get that dub, and we're going to go 1-1 in the Big 12 conference so far, and that's going to put us at 4-1 heading into our game against Cincinnati on October 11th. There's probably one other team that we don't even speak of. That should not be named. USF, little relevant, bro. Cincinnati's right there. I don't like Cincinnati. I don't like their fans. I don't like anything about them. I'm a Steelers fan too, so I don't like the Bengals. And, so at Cincy, yes, we want payback. We're going to win that game. We're going to beat Cincy at Cincy. We are going to walk in there and we're going to be motivated because that's a little bit of a rivalry. That's more of a real rivalry lately is with Cincy. So, yeah, I would love that. And I do think we're going to beat Cincy on the road. I have them winning that game. And so right away, we have now UCF at this point is so we got the win at Jack State, win at North Carolina A&T, North Carolina win. So we're 3-0. We lose to Kansas State. We're 3-1. We beat Kansas. We're 4-1. And we're going on the road and we're going to beat Cincy. And we're going to be 5-1. We're at 5-1 heading into October 18th. And we got West Virginia at home. This is basically Jacksonville State 2.0. This is a lower level D1 program. Their best players left Jack State, and they're at West Virginia now. Rich Rod, good coach, similar position that UCF's in, similar to UNC. New coach, new assistant coaches, a makeshift roster of transfers. A lot of familiar guys coming over with Rich Rod from Jacksonville State, but Jacksonville State guys, even if they were really, really good at Jacksonville State, they're not playing in the Big 12 every week, and they haven't played a full schedule in the Big 12 yet. If you don't recall, when UCF played in the Big 12 for our first year, it was an awakening that we need to get bigger in the trenches. It's a more physical conference than we thought. And it was a rude awakening. And I think West Virginia is in for a very rude awakening, especially coming to UCF. And I think we want more payback as well. So here we go. Boom, I got a win versus West Virginia. Right away, that puts us at 6 wins. We've already eclipsed all the UCF haters, all the media, Vegas, and pretty much every UCF podcast out there who's thinking we're lucky to be bowling. Guess what? We're going bowling. We're going bowling after October 18th because we're going to beat West Virginia at home. Jacksonville State 2.0. So now we have 6 wins mid-October. How's that sound? Who thought this would happen? This guy did. I believe in this team. And I'll tell you why more, and I'll have some facts to back it up, okay? So here we are. Now we're going into our next bye, and we're 6-1. And remember I said it's about the brand. And I think that in this case, if you are, looking at UCF's overall record so far, you're like, wow, these guys are 6-1. The only loss they had was on the road at Kansas State, a very good team. And UCF's strength of schedule is pretty good. They have the 5th hardest strength of schedule in the Big 12, and they have the 57th hardest schedule in the nation. So hard schedule, and they're 6-1. This team might be for real. We will see. But at this point, we'll be ranked pretty high if we're 6-1, and we have a bye on October 25th, another bye. So the brand's looking good. While more teams lose, UCF is still 6-1. And in our conference, we're 3-1 in the Big 12 at this point. So we're 6-1, and we're 3-1 in the conference. Now, we got to go to Baylor. And I've heard a lot about Baylor's quarterback. I've heard a lot about this Baylor team and some of the best receivers in the Big 12. And, this Baylor team is tough, no doubt about it. For the Big 12, they're tough. They're one of the better teams in the Big 12 on paper. This could be a real tough test for UCF. They came out with the new helmets, looking real fresh. Really cool. Also learned really cool thing about Baylor. I didn't know this. They in Waco, they have like a lake that they sailgate. They call it sailgating. So if I make it out to Baylor, that would be awesome. I would love to sailgate. That sounds awesome. So like this is one of the only stadiums on like a river or a lake. Yeah, it's a lake, right? I think it's a lake. Anyone in Baylor, let me know. But so they have a lake that you can like tailgate on right outside of the stadium that Baylor plays at, which is really cool. I did see that Baylor's having a hard time selling out their stadium, and I know they play Auburn to open the year. That's going to be a real tough test for them. I think Auburn's probably going to beat them down pretty good. So that's another take of mine there, is that I think Auburn's going to beat Baylor week 1. But anyway, we got to go to Baylor, and I don't know. I have that as a loss for UCF. I think they have a veteran squad, and it's going to be a tough road game. So let's have some grace, and let's say UCF loses that game. Not the end of the world. So we're 6-2, and we are we're 6-2, and we are 3-2 in conference. Yep, 3-2 in conference. Okay, so 6-2, still looking good. Lose to Baylor on the road. If they're doing well and Baylor's solid year, it's a quality loss. Then we got Houston at home for the space game. And if I need to remind you, UCF is basically you can't beat them at home on a space game. So we are Space U. Houston is old news. We are the new news. We are Space U. Cape Canaveral, let's go. All right, we're going to beat Houston because it's a space game. Probably smoke them. So now we are at 7 wins and 2 losses. Look at that, 7 wins and 2 losses. And we're going to Texas Tech on November 15th. This game, if there was a team that I wanted to beat besides Cincinnati, it would be this team, because they are basically, just big pockets, oil money, spend as much as they possibly can, and they have the number one transfer portal incoming class. They're doing everything they can to win right now. And I think that the thing with Texas Tech is they always get overhyped in the offseason, and then when the season comes around, it doesn't work out for them. So I could see this thing blowing up on Texas Tech. But let's humor this. Let's say Texas Tech is really, really good. And we go on the road, and we're 7-2, with our only losses coming on the road to Kansas State and on the road to Baylor. So we're 7-2. We're going to Texas Tech. I wouldn't be shocked if UCF pulls an upset, almost like they did last year against Iowa State. But I don't have us pulling the upset against Texas Tech. I have us losing that game. So that would put us at 7-3. 7-3. And then on November 22nd, we play Oklahoma State at home, Senior Day in Orlando. And Oklahoma State has a lot of new faces on their roster, and I like us to beat them. I think they're one of the lower, tier teams in the Big 12, and I think we're gonna whoop up on Oklahoma State. So that puts us there at 8-3. 8-3. And here we go. Last game of the year. BYU. At BYU. Provo. Not an easy place to play. Really cool place to visit. I would love to visit. I'm going to try to make it to that game because that would be a great vacation. But what happened with BYU? Basically, their quarterback's a predator, and he is no longer on the team. Jake Retzlaff, he is playing for Tulane. So he's out. And they have to fill the hole. They have to fill that gap. And they don't have much time. And I don't think they're going to be able to recover from that. They do have a solid team. They have a lot of experience. And it's senior day for them at BYU. So it's senior day for them. But like with Rudy, it doesn't matter it's senior day for them when they don't have that skilled quarterback playing for them on that day. So at BYU, where no one has UCF winning this game, I'm looking at it from a bigger picture. And that is basically UCF is 8-3. We're at this point in contention for the Big 12 and the college football playoff, being 8-3. And then we have BYU on the road. And this BYU team, if all things are correct, they're going to fall off a cliff this year, not having Jake Retzlaff as their quarterback. So losing him is a huge deal to them. They are going to go from here all the way here. So at the end of the year of getting their butt whipped, their schedule, their ranking, their overall conference, their motivation is going to be so low. They're going to be checked out. They're going to be checked out, and UCF's not. UCF's going to be super checked in. If they're going to be 8-3, and this is the last game of the season in the Big 12, and 8-3, I have us going on the road and beating BYU in Provo without Jake Retzlaff for BYU. So I think this BYU team is not going to be who we think they are by the end of the season. So that makes UCF, in my prediction, we are going to be 9-3. We are going to be a 9-3 team. Nobody believed in them. I believe in them. I believe in this team, and I'll tell you a little bit more why, but that's how I see the schedule playing out. I see us being 9-3. And so if we're 9-3, we would only have lost to Tech on the road, Texas Tech on the road, Kansas State on the road, and Baylor on the road. With a good strength of schedule, 3 losses on the road, probably competitive. That's a 9-3 record right there. We are not only going bowling, we could be in the Big 12 championship. And we could be one game away from getting into the college football playoff if everything goes the way that this schedule looks like it could go. Now, people are going to say, oh, this guy's a homer. He went to UCF. He's a diehard. Of course he's going to say that. Of course he's going to say that. But I would say, hold on now. Look at last year. I mean, you can always be the offseason champion, but last year was brutal. UCF, high trajectory, came up short. Right now, everyone's saying we're going to be trash, basically, dead last. I don't see it that way. I actually see a complete flip. And I think if you're closer to the program, you know about Scott Frost, you know these players that have in the program, what these coaches are saying, which little, they're not saying much, but what they are saying, you can kind of have an idea. And so what I like is that we'll be 9-3, and we'll have 3 losses in the conference. And that could get us in the Big 12 championship. And then anything could happen on any given Saturday. So that would be fun. We'll see. So, let's go floor. What's like the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario I see here, we lose to UNC, we lose to Kansas, and we lose to BYU. And that puts us at 6-6. That's the floor for us, 6-6. Ceiling, 10-2. Because if we can steal a game at K-State or at Texas Tech, and all those other games play out like I think they will, we will be 10-2. So, pretty interesting. But my bold take is, and I'll die on this hill, we'll go back to this clip. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Charles Barkley, love that line. UCF final record, 9-3. 9-3. And 9-3, and we're going to be 6-3 in the Big 12. 9-3, 6-3. Yep. So 9-3 overall record, and we have a very, very good chance at the Big 12 championship. And then we just need to win one game, and we're in the college football playoff, which would be amazing for the program, especially year one under Scott Frost. I know that might sound unrealistic, but if you look at the schedule and you see the matchups, we actually aren't looking that bad. It's not that bad. And let's take a look. Let's look at some other stuff. So we got the schedule done. I'm sure people are not going to believe that, 9-3, but yep, bookmark it. That's how I feel about this team. I'm very excited about this team. Much more excited about this team than I was last year's team. And I know it's easy to say after the fact, but there's this completely different scenario with Scott Frost. And Mackenzie Milton, super pumped about him developing the quarterback. And hopefully it's Jackson. So let's see. FanFest was cool. Just went to FanFest. What an awesome experience that was. Loved it. I thought it was a great time. I'll tell you one thing about UCF fans. People say, if you live in the Southeast United States of America, you basically got religion, taxes, and college football. And people think that really only applies to the SEC. But I would say UCF, a lot of people at UCF are diehard fans, and it's only growing. And there's not the tradition in history yet, but it's getting there. I was at FanFest. It's hot. It's like 95 degrees out there. It is scorching. The doors open at 1 o'clock. Okay? Brilliant. UCF, let's have the fans stand out in the sun at 1 o'clock and not let them in to wait to be let in 30 minutes later past the little swing arm to go see all the sports teams and, FanFest. Let's have them sit outside with no water. Yeah, good call on that. Might want to work on that one, UCF. If you're watching this athletic department, get it going here. Come on. Anyway, what a liability that was for those people, poor people. But what I'm saying is that these diehard UCF fans are out there, and I loved it. I was talking to people. I was meeting people, old alumni. This one guy, he had a UCF football he took out of this satchel with all this nice paper, and he's like, I got everybody on here. The only person I'm missing on this ball from the perfect season is Scott Frost. I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to get that ball completed today. I don't care. And I'm looking, and as it's starting to get closer to 1, some people are in the shade in these little pockets outside the, Edition arena, the basketball arena. They're hiding out in the shade because it's so hot. Other people are like, screw this. I want to get in there and try to get as many autographs as I can. I'm going to get in line and just sit in the straight sun. And so you got all these people out there literally pouring sweat for quite some time. I was hiding behind a palm tree. As soon as I had a hat, I knew it was going to be hot. I was hydrated. went in line as quick as I could, but I didn't want to wait too long. But these people are diehards. They're out there pouring sweat in the straight sun, wearing all black UCF gear, just to go in there and meet the team. So when people say, the Southeast, SEC, we live and breathe football, it's the same thing for UCF. It's the same thing for those folks at FanFest. Me personally, I'm right there. So I love this fan base. I would not want to be a part of any other program. If I was a recruit, I would be promoting UCF so hard because I love everything about UCF. It's an incredible school, the best in the nation. I love it for all the reasons above. But anyway, FanFest. So we get in there and boom, right away I go to meet Coach Frost again, and, it was cool. Chatted with him real quick. Very nice, very friendly. He was signing tons of autographs. They had us actually sitting in the seats in rows, and they would call you in little bunches to go back where there's security, and then he would sign something, take a picture, talk to you briefly, and then the next. That poor guy's probably still exhausted. Same with the players. They were awesome. Got to see, basically the entire team. And they were all real cool. And a lot of them were I'm like, hey, how you feeling? And they're like, oh, what game are you most excited for? And they're like, Jack State, first game 1. They're locked in. And I can totally see it. Some of these guys are massive. Paul Rubelt, real cool. I ran into him at the German restaurant at one point in Sanford, Hollerbox. He was I'm like, massive guy. I'm like, that's got to be Paul Rubelt. And I was like, hey, Paul. He turned around and said, what's up? Keep it up. That was last year. So I saw him. I told him the story. He's like, oh, yeah, I remember that. So make your way to the restaurant if you can. It's really cool. Good time. So, yeah, met the players. Everybody was really cool. Coaches were cool. And the vibe is good. They're gelling. They're all very, very friendly with each other, and it's a good sign of a good brotherhood and bond being created with this 2025 UCF team. So I liked everything I saw at FanFest. Cool stat I didn't know about UCF football during practice, what they're doing. They actually have GPS trackers on each player. As a metric, they can tell how fast, max speeds, effort, all that per practice. So you can't really, nowadays, you can't really take a play off, even in practice, because we're talking about practice. Practice. The game practice. Yes, practice. They have GPS monitors, so you can't you can't skate. They're going to tell if you're slacking. And you want to make that depth chart, you want to be up top, you want to start, you better give it all you got, because they're monitoring you with GPS speeds, and they can tell if you're hustling or not, which is amazing. That was cool. Heard that. That was crazy. I have a quick update on my starters in the secondary, who I think are going to start. Not a complete update, but so I got at corner, I got DJ Bell, Memphis transfer, starting, and I have Jaden Bellamy from Syracuse starting on the other side. Those are my two starters. And then at slot corner, we'll put in Brandon Marshall, but at safety, Philip Dunham, transfer from FAU, and Jaden Good, transfer as well from Syracuse. It seems like Jaden Good has solidified that other safety position, and he has experience. I believe he's a redshirt junior transfer, but I like what I've seen from him, and I think he has pretty much solidified that spot. So I wouldn't be surprised to hear those announced as the starters very shortly. Usually, I would bet by Monday or Tuesday we're going to find out who the starters are for most positions. Okay, and here's the thing. Why do I think UCF is going to be 9-3? I've gone over their positions at depth of what we did in the portal, who are we bringing back, our coaches. But here's the thing. This team, this 2025 team going into the first game, you might as well call them the cast of write-offs, right? Everybody's written them off. Everybody. Media, even our own fans. We'll be happy if we get a bowl game. We'll be happy if we win one more game than last year. If we win 5 games, we should be happy. And it's no, we shouldn't be happy. We should not be happy. We should not be happy if it's not Big 12 championship, college football playoff, every single season. We're in the Power Four. We're one of the best schools in the nation. We're in the best state in the nation, in Florida, especially for college football. So we need to have high expectations. Also, we need to be realistic, and I get that. That's why I have us at 9-3, not at 10-2. But I do think we could steal a game and become 10-2. But I'm going to go with 9-3, and we are the cast of write-offs. Even the coaches have been written off. Scott Frost, he was like shunned from college football after Nebraska. That was a disaster. This is the rebirth. Look at Alex Grinch. What happened at USC? If he went anywhere else, I think the spotlight wouldn't have been on him as much as it was at USC. And with Lincoln Riley at USC, it was a bad spot for him. But guess what? If that didn't happen, because his track record before that was stellar, and he's one of the brilliant up-and-coming minds as a D coordinator. If that stint didn't happen in USC, he probably wouldn't have been available last minute like he was, and now he's got the keys to the defense. And another thing is, Scott Frost is an offensive-minded head coach. He loves offense. He will create space. He will use Florida speed. He will use our speedsters, and we will find success in this offense. However, hiring Alex Grinch as the D coordinator, he is like, here's the keys, bro. Take this over. I want to focus on offense. You got it. Take it over. And I think the great thing about what Alex Grinch can do, he can create turnovers. His defense is known to be opportunistic. They can create turnovers, and they basically are very aggressive. And so with UCF speed, if we do go UCF fast, which I think we will, depending on the game, the defense is going to do well with bending and not breaking. And we got a lot of young, fast athletes, and I love that. So at the end of the day, this is a perfect time to buy low on UCF. And remember ASU last year. I bet there's an ASU podcaster out there from last year who thought the same thing about ASU then. And look how ASU season ended. They won the Big 12, and they had a good fight in the college football playoff. UCF, same boat. But guess what? We got Scott Frost coming back. And nobody really looks into anything beyond last year's team with this UCF team. And we're so far from that. So very excited. I'm super pumped for the opener against Jack State. But we'll talk soon, Night Nation, and we'll catch up soon. Charge on.